Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are in the world, and welcome to Chattering with Nicholas Events. I may have started that a little too early. It's only just this moment said live. Okay, we'll see. Anyway, in a few moments, I'm going to be introducing Nick Meunier, and we're going to be talking about his films. I'm just waiting for confirmation from downstairs that we are actually live and people can see us. Can you see us, Craig? There's silence from downstairs. Okay, we'll assume that we're live because everything's telling me it's live. Craig. Okay.
Hooray, it works.
Yeah, it's this is a great professional way to start the show as usual, folks. Basically, Craig's response to me is, look at Twitter. Okay. I had looked at Twitter and he hadn't said anything. Anyway, as you can see, I'm joined by Nick, who's another Nick who enjoys laughing. Before I introduce him properly, if I can speak, I just wanted to show off my nice T-shirt because look, the wonderful chest I have with nipples. Anyway, that's my Necessary Evils T-shirt, and next week I'm going to be wearing my Your Appraisal T-shirt. But yeah, before I do that, one thing I will just say at the end of the show, I'm going to be making announcements about the next 2 weeks of guests. We've got two very special lots of guests coming on in the next couple of weeks. So hang around for that, particularly for the gentleman who's going to be coming on in 2 weeks' time, because we need to sort out questions beforehand for him. So, Nick, hi, Nick.
Hello. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are. Yeah.
Yes, all of these things.
Yeah, all of these things. This is a worldwide show. Yeah, we have no borders on this show. So thank you very much indeed for joining me. I thought we're here going to be talking about Mother of Beauty. Where are you up to with that one before we dive right into other stuff? You've just started festival submissions, is that right?
Yeah, we've been submitting to festivals for a couple months now. Unfortunately, all the festivals we're submitting to don't let us know if we got in or not for another month and a half-ish. So like end of this month, end of August is kind of like where we expect to really start hearing it back. So yeah, be cool. I'm excited. I have faith it'll do good. I like it.
There's a lot to like about it. There really is a lot to like of it, not least of which is Tristan Risk. There's an awful lot, but we will come back to that and talk about that in more detail. But one of the things we did want to do is to give a shout out to Jessica.
Yes, my producer co-worker as well, I guess, for Eclectic47, who the company we made Mother Beauty through and make all of our short films through. Yeah, she's pretty much the best. She's the best producer anyone could really ask for. She lets me take crazy ideas and make them. So
that's really how do you? I think the director-producer relationship can be fraught. How is it you split the? Where is the demarcation between the roles? Well, who does what? Because she writes as well. So how does it work with you guys?
It really depends on the show. Like we met each other when we were in film school, and then we kind of just had this like natural bond that allowed us to work together really fluidly and easily. And it's always been one of those things. She also is a director, so we try our best to take turns with myself directing, her producing, then her directing and myself producing. So that's kind of like that's our agreement. And I find that works really well because it's not really one person being like, I'm the director always, this is that. It's actually like you both get to listen to your ideas. You get to grow together in each role. And I think you really kind of get to learn how to be creative together in a very interesting way.
It is very. So now, do you ever find it difficult when you have to swap roles? You think, okay, well, no, do you find yourself having to hold your tongue at all, saying, oh no, I'm producer at this point, that's the director role, and therefore it's Jess's turn to be or does it kind of just happen naturally?
I'd like to say it's naturally. I'm more of a director at heart personally. So I'll see something and I will always give feedback. Doesn't really matter with who. I'm always like going to be giving feedback on shows, because at the end of the day, you want the best show possible. Whether or not people listen to my suggestions are totally up to them. And with Jess, it's definitely the same thing. We've had a few moments on set where it's like a line or two is different, and I just wanted to make sure the line being read was what was in the script. So it's a very specific line because it was a quote from something.
Right.
And so we had a couple takes of an actress not nailing that line, and then I just told Jess, I'm like, oh, we need to make sure she said this, and she's like, oh, right, yeah, great idea, and then ran over and continued doing our things, and I went and got lunch for everyone and did that. So it's like I'm more outspoken, but I also am respectful of her doing that because she's respectful of me doing mine, right? On Mother of Beauty, she was amazing on set. She did pretty much all the catering on set. So like I was on set running everything in one cabin. She's in another, pretty much cooking lunch and dinner for 15 people and trying to make sure everything is going well and coordinate everything. And yeah, it's just kind of like a give and take with her. Like we each give each other feedback. Yeah, once again, we decide if we're going to listen to each other's feedback. And then even like when it comes down to post as well, when it's a director's cut versus producer's cut, like we give each other their space to do their cut. And on Mother Beauty, even we did the director's cut, and I put in some ideas that I wasn't sure if they were going to land or not, but I personally really liked them. And I'm like, I'm going to let this go. Worst that happens is producers don't like it and they take it out, and that's fine. It's like, I'd rather them see this idea and like at least have it in their head than just me being like, nah, that's not going to fly. So it's good because like they have their cut and they went in and they tore out that and they changed certain things about it. And, you know, it's kind of, we went back for a fine cut and we merged our two ideas, and yeah, it came out even stronger. I also should give a special shout out to Lonnie Nadler, the other producer on the show, because yeah, the show wouldn't be the same without him or Jess, really. Those two are amazing together, and I think just to work with them is great.
Right. So this is Lonnie Nadler?
Yes. He's the writer / co-producer.
Right. Okay. So, and that's interesting. Now, this is and this is just my ignorance. This is the first time I've heard of director's cut versus, not necessarily in competition with, as a separate thing of the idea of producer's cut. So you've got one editor, or you got one editor, and who's your editor?
Our editor's name is Adam McKay. I worked with him when I was a TA, a teacher assistant at Vancouver Film School.
Right.
And him and I became pretty close friends there. And yeah, we were on Mother of Beauty, and we had a meeting about who we were going to bring on as crew. And I think he was, asides like myself, Jess, and Lonnie, he was like the one person where I'm like, the show is just going to be like, Adam is the only editor. There's no question about it. And everyone's like, okay, well, like, let's see his stuff. So I showed the producers his stuff, and they're kind of like, yeah, this guy knows what he's doing. And yeah, the show, once again, all props go to Adam because he really put a lot into it as well. He's such an important role on that show. Like we would put in ideas, and his main thing he liked to ask, just for his own understanding, as well as just to make the show as good as it can be, is to be, he always just asks us like, well, why? Like, why are we doing this? Why are we doing whatever? And it's not to like be a dick or challenge us. It's just like, he wants to know so that he can kind of cut for that idea, but also he wants to make the best show possible. So if he thinks that's not a good idea, he will challenge it.
Right.
But at the end of the day, like, it would be our say. So if we really want it in, he'll be like, all right, I'll put that in. But I found that was one of the best things we had, because once again, I was trying out ideas. Lonnie and Jess had ideas they wanted to try out. And everything was kind of met with Adam being like, okay, but what's the purpose in terms of theme? What's the purpose in terms of story? What does this do for the overall show? So it really helps you build a show where it's all pointed in the same direction. You don't have like random little things going out. So
right. Okay, so you've got the one editor, but he's working with three people effectively, saying, okay, can we try this? Can we try this? You've got the one timeline that he's working on, or is he he's working on one timeline, but then you've got the producers coming in and giving their ideas. There's you as the director.
Yeah. We had it split. So the first cut, we gave him was his. So he just took it and did a rough cut and tried out some ideas that he had thought for it as well. Not like changing anything dramatically, just working within what was shot. And then, yeah, it was really nice because then he knows the footage and he really kind of knows what he's doing with it. He knows like what works and what doesn't in terms of what we shot. And then I come in and I think I spent a week and a half with him, I want to say. So it's like every night after work, I would go over to his place and we'd edit for a few hours and go home, and then did that 2 or 3 times over the course of a week and a half. I think it was actually 3 times, but yeah, and then we did the export. Jess, Lonnie, and myself all kind of rewatched it and got a feeling for it. They gave notes on it, and then the 2 of them went and sat with Adam and did an editing session on it as well. So we have like every cut has been saved and then duplicated, and then he just works off of like he puts the old ones in like an old a backup bin basically.
Interesting. So basically, it's a linear process. They happen rather than happening at the same time. You don't have 2 strands and trying to bring them together. It's basically you have go, and then that's really interesting. I guess because I'm used to working with the idea is like you have a writer director. That's what we're going to be doing at the end of the day. But that's very interesting working with producers like that. In terms of the other roles of the producer, getting finance, getting it, if we now wind back from post-production to pre-production, responsible for sourcing cast, crew, any finance necessary?
I did the crew, having taught at VFS for the year that I did. There are certain students that stand out and you kind of talk to them, and after they graduate, I was like, hey, would you be interested in coming on to my project? A couple of the other TAs as well that are just really stellar in their roles. Our production designer, Rob, was working at Vancouver Film School alongside me at the same time that we were pitching it. So I remember like I went and pitched it to him and was like, hey man, I have a script. Curious if you're interested in working on it. It could be a lot of fun. And he just like, he's kind of at a point where I think his contract was coming up to an end at VFS. So he's starting to move off into more industry work. And he wanted something really out there. And he just kind of looked at me and he's like, just promise me it's really weird. I'm like, oh boy, are you in for a treat? So yeah, like that's how we brought him on board. And then, like I said, I worked with Adam, and like the key crew, I pretty much have been friends with for some time. Our DOP, I watch wrestling pay-per-views with him every like 2 weeks when they're on. So him and I had just been friends for a while, and he's really into that as well. He shot a web series a year and a half ago or something. So yeah, I've worked with him a bunch too. So I knew these people and were able to bring them on. Lonnie and I started putting the show together first, and I gave him the idea for the script. He went and just ran with it and made this wicked script. And I remember after I had pitched it to him and he was like super into it, I think his response to me was just like, I think we have to make that, when I gave him like the full idea. And I was like, that was great. It's this idea I'd been working on for probably like 2 or 3 months at that time, just had in my head. And I'm like, what's the story here? I don't really know. I had an idea of something. And then, yeah, I brought it to Jessica when I went home, and I'm like, hey, so I have this idea. I think Lonnie and I are going to do it. What do you think? And I expected Jess just to be like, that's terrible. Let's not do that. Mainly because I think I come home with, I want to say like 2 or 3 new ideas for shorts every week. Like I'll just be daydreaming at work and I'll be like, oh, I got this. This is great. And I'll come home and she's like, yeah, no, we should do that one. It's like, yeah, you're right. That was bad. So that's a nice thing also working with her, is that it kind of keeps me grounded. Like it really lets me know I have a good idea if I pitch it to her and she's like, yeah, that's awesome. We should make that. Versus if I pitch it to her and she's like, oh, I don't know. It's like, you don't want to put money in it or time into it. Perfect. Let's not do that. Let's move on. So yeah, I came home and I pitched that to her and she's like, oh, that's awesome. I was like, oh, that's really nice to hear. I didn't think you would like it. I was just going to do it with Lonnie anyways. And she's like, yeah, no, she's like, yeah, I'll start setting that up. And Lonnie is very much like, he'll get shit done. But I still wasn't sure how we were going to get this show funded and like what to do. And then I think like within a week, Jessica was like, all right, so we're going to do a Kickstarter for it. This is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to find money. This is how we're going to pay for things. And it was like, okay, well, we know what we're doing for money now. So I brought in crew. Jess was like responsible for setting up the project itself and kind of getting all the money and everything together and like all the assets ready, getting everyone signed up for the contracts, basically saying like, yeah, now you're going to work with us for this much money, all that type of fun stuff. And then Lonnie was just like all the little pieces that we needed. Lonnie really put everything together, aside from, the script, which is the biggest piece. But yeah, like he was the one that contacted Tristan initially. And that was, I had done a lot of prep. We were a couple months deep into pre-production, and I think we just started a Kickstarter or something. And I had been doing my storyboards, like Tristan Risk would be perfect for this, and like drawing my storyboards with her in mind, just as like a placeholder. Like, it doesn't matter who we get, like this will work for right now. And just like secretly kind of planning with Tristan. And then, yeah, Lonnie comes on to our Facebook chat group that him, Jess, and I had, and he's like, so I reached out to Tristan and sent her the script. And I was like, oh, what? Because I was contemplating asking everyone about it, but I wasn't sure if that would be like, I didn't know if she'd be into it or not. And I feel really weird, like cold pitching someone over Twitter. But Lonnie's like, no, this is a great idea. Let's just try. So he sent it to her, and I guess she had read it. She sent us a message back, and she's like, hey, I read this script, and then I had to read it again right away. Like, whatever it takes to be in this, I would love to be a part of it. And it was just kind of like the heavens opened up and the angels sang. And it was just like, are you kidding me? Like, we got to do the show I'm like just in love with. And now Tristan, like, everything about it was a dream come true. And like, yeah, without the two of them, I think we wouldn't have had the show we had. Like I said, like we all kind of pitched something equally as important together. And I think it took all of our efforts to really get it to be what it is and to get it made.
Right. Now we covered a lot of ground there. It was wonderful. So
Yeah.
Hey, you give the sort of answers that I give.
Yeah. Okay, I'm glad. It's a Nick thing.
It's just absolutely, yes, it's definitely a Nick thing. Let's unpick Kickstarter, because I think that's the first. We had kind of met through Crypt TV family, kind of online. I think we were kind of messaging. I think you'd sent me some links, and I really enjoyed some of your videos, particularly First Love, which we'll talk about a little bit later on. But the Kickstarter, so you've decided you're going to, how much were you raising on Kickstarter? I can't remember.
I believe our Kickstarter was 8,000.
Which, yeah.
Yeah, it was I think overall around what we needed to do it. But we still planned the show to be more either way. Right. Like we're like, this will get us going. It's also with Kickstarter, they take a percentage. So we're kind of like, if we set it at like 10 or 12,000, there's a chance we might not hit it. And even if we do, they're going to take way more money. So it's like, we can get the 8,000. And if we know there's someone that wants to donate a bit more money, then we'll just talk to them in person and see if they'll just donate straight to us as opposed to this, so we can save a bit more.
Interesting. Very interesting. Okay. Yeah. And how quickly did you raise the funds?
I think we only had about a week left, or a little under a week left when we actually fully raised it. It was, I don't want to say it was overly stressful, because I was confident we would get it. I was very confident in the show and the premise, and I thought our Kickstarter, I was very happy with how our Kickstarter turned out. Except for the video, because I'm like staring wide-eyed into the camera, like looking like I'm just a deer in the headlights, afraid of everything. So I had a friend message me, and she's like, dude, chill out with the eyes. I'm like, oh God, did I ruin everything?
What was really nice about your Kickstarter video is that it really gave a sense, and I think this is why I jumped on board, was because it really gave a sense of what this was about. And the kind of the chills and the forest and the baby and everything. It was I don't remember you being in the headlights at all.
That's good.
So you got the Kickstarter, you got the money. How long ago was that?
Kickstarter was February of 2016.
So we're now a year and a half down the line, effectively, nearly a year and a half.
Yeah.
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 As is the way of these things.
Yeah, it's. I think Lonnie and I met up and talked about it September of 2015, I want to say.
Uh-huh.
And then I think we had the first script by the end of September that year. And then we did our Kickstarter February. And then we shot in May of 2016. And then we finally finished the show completely in February of 2017. So it was a year and a half, I think, that we spent on it.
So I mean, basically, around about the 8 months to do post-production.
Yeah, we hit a point in it where we wanted to do some pickups. There's a couple scenes that we thought could be a bit stronger, and we did our like really clean cut of it. We're happy with it, but not like in love with it. Not where we wanted to be,
right?
I should say. And we knew we could make it better if we picked up one or two things. And we sent it out to a few people, and they gave us feedback. And there's a few things missing, just like wanting to make sure the bond with the daughter was strong enough, because that's such a crucial element, especially in a show with no dialogue and it's just a woman and her baby for 20 minutes, right? So yeah, I went back and filmed a couple extra things, and it just amplified how good it was. It's just, yeah, it really helped it so much more. And because of that, like, I think it took a couple extra months to cut that in, as well as like, we're working independent. We don't have money to pay people to quit their day job and just work on this, right? So
right. Yes, of course.
Other schedules. So it's one of those things. It's the joys of indie filmmaking.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. And I think it's always the reason I wanted to raise it is just to, this is what it takes. This is absolutely in order to be able to do that. So you've done all that. So, and you just alluded to a couple of quick things that I was going to ask you as well. So it's got a running time of 20 minutes. It really doesn't feel that long when you're watching it. And as you say, there's almost, is there any dialogue? I'm trying to think.
There's no proper dialogue.
There's no proper, no.
If we had to send it off somewhere and put in subtitles, we luckily wouldn't have to. So like there's a couple, like with the baby crying and Tristan like trying to calm the baby down, like it's okay and stuff like that. So we have stuff like that, but it's kind of, even that is like almost under her breath. Like we didn't want to make that a loud known thing in the show.
Yeah.
That was just something that would happen naturally, but it's not like anyone's going to see that and be like, I don't know what's being said. Like it's something that we really strive for. When we got sent the script, Lonnie sent it to me and Jess, and it had like in the email, he's like, so there's no dialogue. He's like, I've tried a few scenes with it and it just didn't seem to work. It seemed like really expositional. He's like, and I think it kind of works better with it out. And I read it and I was like, holy shit, like this is so good. Like the script for it is just amazing. Like it reads like a poem. It's absolutely beautiful. Like Lonnie just, dude has a way with words, and it is unbelievable.
That is really, how many is a 20-minute film? How many pages is the script?
8.5, 9. It's been a while since I've read it.
Yeah, no, of course. Sorry, I'm just picking up. It's unfair. I'm just okay. So 8.5, 9 pages, 20 minutes of film. Yep. Now, one of the things that I kind of want to touch about, and this is one of the things that struck me when I first saw your short film, First Love, the use of music. Now, this is one of the things in The Mother of Beauty, which I'm fortunate enough to have watched. It's the use of music. How did the music come about? And was that a conscious choice to begin with? That, you look at a script, you think, uh-oh, there's no dialogue. What am I going to do now? Or what was the thinking about that?
Well, we have a really awesome composer that we've worked with since film school. And his name's Nestor Estrada. He lives down in LA. And he's like, the dude's awesome. He gets back to you immediately. We like Mother Beauty, we kept giving him notes on, and everything he would be changing. He was up to like 2 a.m. working on stuff for us. But he's done that with every show I've done with him. I think this was like my 6th or 7th short that I've done with him now.
Right.
And yeah, everything we throw at him is always, there's always something different to it. And he's always just able to like get it just pretty much dead on. And with Mother Beauty specifically, it was like, I think what I told him I wanted was it to be like the saddest lullaby you've ever heard. And then he gave us a version of the music, his first demo with all the music, and it wasn't what we were looking for exactly. And I was fine. I was like, I want to see all your ideas, because if something sticks, I know it's just going to be killer.
Yeah.
And it's happened before. So we did it with this one. We were both, we all kind of listened to it and we're like, it's not exactly what we were looking for. So we worked on it more with him and gave him, I think we did like 3 or 4 rounds of feedback with him to really like nail what we wanted. And then, yeah, we pretty much gave him like, what are your saddest instruments? What instruments are like the scariest sounding or whatever. And he was giving us a bunch. So he ended up live recording 4 musicians out in LA at the studio he works at for us. And I can't remember what instruments they were offhand. I know there's piano, harp, I think cello.
I was going to say cello. There's definitely cello in there.
I think a violin.
Makes sense. Yes, I think that, yeah, it's interesting. The cello and the violin, as opposed to viola. Viola is a nice round sound, but violin, it's Fiddler on the Roof. Yeah, there's some, those high notes. Cello has just got this wonderful, funny enough, using it in Your Appraisal, my short film.
Okay, yeah,
I love the cello. A huge fan of Elgar's cello concerto, which I studied at school, and it had a profound effect on me. That is 20 minutes. Okay, so and that's the great thing. You can really hear that it's live.
Oh yeah, there's something so special about the sound of that show. I actually think everyone that's watched it now, like that's probably the first thing I hear about this show. Like almost everyone is like, who is your composer? That was like, the score for that was amazing. And it's like, yeah, that was our feelings when we finally got that one and we laid it over the show and we listened to it. It was just like, fuck, this is it. Like, this is the score.
Yeah. Did you just give Nesta the final cut to work with?
Yeah. We sent him, I believe it was it was the second last cut before like the fine cut, the final version of it. So there's always like 10,000 versions of a final cut until you have it officially locked.
It's final cut V1, V2, V3. Yeah.
We gave him like V30 or something, we'll say. And yeah, he sent us it, and like I said, once we got it to where we loved it, he then went and did the live recording and just like changed some of the levels a little bit to make sure it was like exactly what we wanted. And like there's certain scenes in the movie where there aren't even any sound effects and it's just music. And it was so nice once that laid in, because it was just so perfect. Like when we had some of our footage in, we shot it without sound, so we just ended up laying on music, and I was like, this is kind of almost perfect without sound. And we gave it to Nestor, and I'm like, this moment is pretty much just you and Tristan. Like, we already know she's good. We got to make sure you're good now. You got to emphasize that. And yeah, he went to town, and that's like just one of my favorite moments of the short in general. Like there's a moment where she's sitting in the forest with her baby, like looking around, and it's this really sweet moment, and they're just kind of looking at nature, and there's just music playing, and it's, yeah, I saw it and I was like, oh my God, this is beautiful.
But it's interesting. You said that you'd worked with Nestor, I think, on most of your short films.
Yeah, on everything I've done.
Literally, it is very noticeable in your work is that you use the music always plays a really strong part of it. Is that something you were conscious of before you met Nestor, or is that something that's kind of grown out of the relationship with Nestor, do you think?
Oh, it's fully grown out of just being friends with him now, even just but, like just working with him for like the 3 years I want to say we've been working with him. He approached us when we were in film school, and he saw our Kickstarter for our film school final that Jessica and I did. And he gave us the music, and I was like, this is, once again, amazing. And then since then, it was just kind of like, every time we needed music, we're like, okay, well, Nestor's going to be doing score, and we know that that's that. And like First Love is another one where it's all score based, and there's not even actually sound effects in First Love.
It's like,
And
it looks like a music video, in fact.
yeah,
A very weird music video.
it was based on, sorry, it's based on a song by a band called She Wants Revenge.
Right.
The song is called First Love. And yeah, I heard it when I was, God, like 15 or something, so ages ago. And I was like, this song is beautiful. I love it. And I just imagine this almost like Dexter meets Saw style montage of this woman killing this guy to it. And I was like, I need to make that. And it's something I think I chased for 8 years or something until I finally got to make First Love. And then it was one of those things where like seeing it come to life was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And then, yeah, I gave Nestor the original song, and I'm like, these are the specific instruments I kind of want to hear on it. Like I need this loud drum to open up the entire show. Like we need to get everyone's attention right off that. So like that's how we open up the show. And yeah, he just went to town with it. And once again, it took like 2 or 3 rounds of notes, and it was there. And he worked tirelessly for it again because he's just the best.
Interesting. Yeah, really. Yeah, I think it's one of those strange things that you're working with, because in working with a short film, I mean, basically, if you're working with actors, you have a dialogue with them whilst you're on set, and you've got the cameraman, the lighting, the sound guy, in terms of you know where you're going to position and the microphone, etc. And so they're kind of very much on board from the very beginning of the process. Score comes very late in the day normally, in that circumstance. So I think it's a very interesting relationship you have with your composer, because even although you're doing sound mix and you're doing effects, and often it's the same sound guy. So I do find the working with the composer a really interesting part of the process.
Oh yeah, he's been a key for us. Yeah, like I said, since the beginning. Like when we finish a script and it's locked, he's one of the first people to get it. He will receive the script pretty much at the same time as all of the keys that we're hoping to bring on board.
Right.
Because it's just like, Nestor, this is what you're getting. Go to town, start thinking up ideas. We won't need you for months, but this is it. Like we send him early cuts of the show, like pretty much from the first rough cut that the editor puts together, we send it to him so we can kind of see where we're going with what we shot and start putting it together even more so then.
Right. Interesting. Okay, so you start that. I think, Patrick, I'm sure I sent the scripts. Yes, I did send the scripts again at the very beginning, and again, it's like, yeah, you're not going to hear from me now until you've actually got final cut, because he said there's nothing he's going to really be able to do about it until he can actually see it. Because of course, I was sending out the Hellraiser scripts to the Kickstarter backers earlier on today, and I kind of glancing through it and I was thinking, didn't use that line. That all got changed. Well, and obviously it's different on feature. Yeah, but even on shorts, inevitably stuff goes.
For sure.
Yeah, I was Nightbreed. I was trying to remember a quote from Nightbreed, and suddenly realizing it was never in the script. It was something Clive had given to me on the day.
You're quoting something that just never made it on. People are like, why is he saying that?
Yeah. It's in the film, but it's kind of it's never in any of the written scripts. It's literally Clive had just given to me, and it was a night shoot, and it's like, Nick, say this. Oh, okay, that's fine. I can remember those 8 words. Yeah, okay, yeah, that's fine. I'm an actor. I can do that. It's part of the fun. Okay, so you got the score. It's 20 minutes. It's there. Where did you film it?
We filmed it on just one of the islands off of the coast of Vancouver. So it's in BC. It's called Salt Spring Island.
Right.
And it's a tiny little island. It's just beautiful there. And we found this cottage that's on the water. There's 2 separate cottages there that these people own. So you can camp in either one. There's also just a giant hill that will pretty much ruin your day. And we had to carry stuff up and down that hill constantly. So everyone lost about 10 pounds on that show, I think.
How long were you filming for?
The shoot was 3 days. It was over a long weekend. So we left Friday and got out to the set in the afternoon. So we had to take a ferry out with the crew and a U-Haul and all that stuff. So we got out to there sometime in the afternoon. Art crew started setting up one of the cabins right away. And we pretty much, as soon as they were ready, we just started shooting. And then we shot until, I want to say like 11 or 12 on Sunday night. Right. Yes, Sunday night. And then we packed up the gear van afterwards. And I think we finished packing at like 2 a.m. And then everyone got up at like 4 to go catch the first ferry. So it was really cool to shoot on this location. But yeah, we have these like fun road trip stories now to go along with it.
Wow. Yeah, that takes me to think. How big was your crew? How many people did you have?
Want to say we were 15.
Kind of sense.
Yeah, it was 15 people. We all stayed in these 2 cabins, like where we were shooting, which was great because everyone could just get up, have breakfast, and we could just start going right away.
Right.
And it was like such a beautiful location that at the end of the day, we don't like to do long days with our shoots. We're pretty effective with our shoots. We try to do like 12 hours max, especially on an indie shoot, 10 hours if we can get away with it and get everything done.
Yeah.
And it was like especially nice there, and I think the crew appreciated it because then we were able to go and sit in like on like just the water's edge because we're like the ocean's like right outside this door. So everyone, like a few people would just sit there and like hang out, like the art crew and stuff.
And it was May, you said, that you were filming.
Yeah.
What was the temperature like?
It was pretty good, except for nighttime.
Right.
It's yeah, being on the water at nighttime got really chilly, so everyone had to bring a coat. But yeah, it was nice otherwise. During the day, it was like beautiful, and it's usually very rainy over May Long here.
Right.
May Long weekend is the weekend we shot it on for Canadians. Right. Yeah, and it's usually super rainy out here. And it was somehow we had like these nice sunny days, like a little bit of overcast, but not much. And it was just like, yeah, nature was really on our side for that shoot.
Right. Okay. And what equipment did you use? What camera did you film on?
The camera, I believe, is the A7S II.
Oh, yes.
It's a DSLR, but it's really, really good for nighttime shoots.
Yeah.
And we wanted to use a lot of natural lighting for the shoot.
Yeah, it looks gorgeous. It looks absolutely gorgeous.
That's all props to our DOP, Steve. He's awesome.
How much colorization did you go through with it?
There was a fair amount. I'd say like an average amount. We didn't do anything really too over the top. There's a couple shots where we had to change the color of certain things in it because I had like a color scheme that I wanted to go across the show. It doesn't like fully read, but I know it's there. So it's like we did build it in. It's just not, I don't think something anyone would really pick up on.
Right.
So there's like a few points where we had to change a couple of things in color correction just to fix like the color, to make the colors match to kind of what I wanted. Right. But Steve, our DOP, was also our colorist. So it was a pretty easy job because it was pretty much just him complaining about himself. I didn't have to like go and hang out with him and hear him complain about the DOP.
Yeah, it's great because Barry, our DOP,
yeah, exactly.
did your appraisal. It's just kind of like, well, you shot it. You know,
yeah.
I told you what I wanted. It's like, you know, that's very useful. Okay, well, moving on from Mother of Beauty, one of the things I also wanted to ask about you is your day job. Funnily enough, because we were chatting about this when we were talking yesterday. So you work in animation.
Yes.
And is that what you had set out to do to begin with? Was work in animation?
No, I actually hadn't really thought about it until I got the job. I was just kind of fortunate enough to get it. My contract at Vancouver Film School was coming to an end, and I needed to find somewhere to work. And our editor, actually Adam, he had an interview at the place I work at now, and they called him back. But they called him back the day he was going on like a month-long trip to Australia. And he got really paranoid, and he's like, I can't take this job because they haven't called me back yet. So he called another gig back and took that one instead. And when these guys tried to contact him and they couldn't, they called their boss at Vancouver Film School, and they're like, hey, he's not answering. Do you know why? And my boss was like, oh, he's on a trip to Australia. I think he took a different job. And he's like, they're like, oh, that sucks. And he's like, but I have another editor here if you guys want him. So I went and did the interview, and it went pretty well. And I'd like to think because I got the job, but yeah. And then I did, the first show I did was a Barbie movie of all things.
Really?
I watch horror at home, and horror is like my favorite type of movie. It's like the type of films I want to make. And then I did a Barbie movie, and literally everyone I told laughed.
I love that. This is a Barbie feature film?
Yeah. Came out a couple months ago, I think. But yeah, anyways, I did a Barbie feature film. It was a very interesting experience. It was very fun because it's so dramatically different than anything else I had done before. Like, you really have to work with the clients on everything. Like when we do our own indie shorts, right? There's like myself, Jess, and Lonnie have the final say on what we're doing. We want to make sure you show, like, Mother Beauty is what it is, right? And then you're doing this other thing, it's everyone has their say, and then you send it to the client and you have to make sure they're happy as well. And if not, you have to change certain things. So it's like more rungs to jump through there. It's like, it's even crazier.
Right. And this is animation. Talk me through the role of an editor in animation, because I mentioned to you when we were speaking earlier on, in my head it just doesn't make sense that you have, because you just animate it and you stick it all together. Surely that's the way it works.
It's definitely like a much different process. So you have like the animatics for the storyboards, and for that, like, you have to take that, and one of the first things you do is called a nat pause. Or anyways, on Barbie, one of the first things that I did was called a nat pause, which stands for natural pauses. So you take all of the recorded dialogue, sound, and anything else like that you want, and you put it in. Like, you take the best cuts of the dialogue and everything, you put it in, and then say at one point Barbie has to go punch some stuff. So she's like going to punch it, so you have to put in a bunch of efforts of her like although more Barbie-like, and punching sound effects, but you have to kind of space it out so she'd actually have time to like pull her arm back and punch and stuff like that. So you use that as like timing for the storyboard animatic, and then you cut the animatic together, and then you watch it, and you should have like a semi-cohesive show. Just at that point, it's board, so it's like obviously not fluid, but it works.
Right.
And then the editor will take that and kind of break it up, and you have to name every single shot. So anytime there's going to be a cut, you basically put a title tool on your timeline and you insert a cut every time, then you change the names of everything. And that's basically what is going to become the runtime of the shot. And then you send that out to an animator, and you get like the various versions that come in of what they wanted to do with it, and they get direction and change stuff up and send it back. And then you take it and just, they'll send you a shot, you'll open it up, and you'll just drop it in where it's supposed to go. And then you'll just kind of massage that cut, because it should all work, because you already have seen the animatic, so everything should work. There might be like a few technical things that don't work, so you might have to change up a shot or some blocking or whatnot. But it's really confusing to explain, so I'm sorry if that was very confusing.
No. It's like, you use the term animatics. Is that basically stick figures, or
it's like a moving storyboard? Storyboards, basically. So after that, there's a thing called layout.
Right.
And layout is basically, you put the characters in the space, you put the camera in the space, you try to make sure that the camera move will work without it crashing through stuff. And that's when the characters' like arms are straight out and they're just like floating forward. You might put in a bit of movement, depending if it's like important to know what they're doing, but sometimes you just get them like stiff armed and leg and like floating forward, and their mouths aren't moving, but the dialogue is playing. So that makes for usually some funny looking visuals of characters like really scared or like gasping widely, but they're just like the most deadpan thing you've ever seen. So yeah, you have that, and then that's basically all the assets put in of what the director wants. And once that's approved, it gets sent to the animation artist, who then will do like the voiceover, like they'll do the mouth, the lip sync to it, and they'll do like the actions and everything and really bring the characters to life. But the cameras really shouldn't be touched too much, I think, at that point.
Right.
I don't do, I'm not on the technical side of it too much. I just know that I get sent stuff and cut it in. I help make the cut look pretty. I add a bunch of sound effects and a bunch of walla and stuff. And it's just like, now it sounds a bit better, and like it looks and flows a little bit better.
It's absolutely fascinating, because obviously we're talking about CGI. We're talking about we're not talking about when you're saying sending it to animators, they're not sitting there with pens, pen and paper and doing it in the old-fashioned way.
No, yeah, it's all on computers.
It's all on computers. But again, it's interesting because I use a thing called an app called Shot Pro on my iPad.
Yeah, that's what I use as well.
Yeah, because I find it really. There's interest. You talk about doing storyboards. Are you an artist as well, or do you draw, or do you, as you say?
Oh God, no. I'm terrible. My brother is the artist of the family. I can tell a story and like ask actors to stand in certain spots and say lines that we've written, but I can't draw. I just my storyboards are the worst. I think almost everyone that sees them usually laughs at them. I've been told they're cute a lot. I guess that's something.
Well, it's an interesting thing, isn't it? Do you'd mentioned you'd use Shot Pro as well.
Yeah.
Do you prefer which? Do you draw first and then put it into Shot Pro, or do you do the mixture of the two? Or
I find what I do is I typically, like, as I read the script, I jot down notes and maybe draw like really, really bad thumbnails just on the side. And then I'll take that and I'll draw my storyboards like properly afterwards. And then I take my storyboards, and once you have the storyboards drawn out, it's just kind of like, oh, you can just drop in the cameras. Like, I know I need this shot, this shot, this shot. And then you like finesse it and angle them slightly and whatnot. But it's like, I find Shot Pro is really hard unless you've done a lot of planning, because it's like you're putting a show together on it basically in your head, right? Like you need to make sure it works. So I find with the storyboards, it actually helps quite a bit.
Yeah, I kind of had paper, and it's just kind of like, it's just kind of getting the stuff out of your head.
Yeah.
With Shot Pro, you have to build the environment, and that takes a while. And then you got to actually, when I did The Night Whispered, my first short film, I literally more or less shot the entire film.
Oh, really?
It was timed. I'd done voiceovers, etc. I didn't have time this time to do it with the. But also, one of the things I'm very conscious of the fact there's a British theatre director called Peter Brooks. I remember reading his biography, and he said when he first started doing theatre, he thought, right, I'm going to go and deal with actors now. So he built himself a little theatre, and he had these little wooden figures, and he put them all on the stage, and he had all his notes, and he walked in and suddenly realized he's dealing with real life human beings. And he just tore up all his notes. It's like, okay.
Oh, it changes very quickly.
Yeah. It's just kind of like, okay, well, this is how I think. But actually now the space is slightly different. Oh, and you're going to light it like this. Okay, well, that's not going to work then. So can we still get this? But I think it's that when people are saying, well, why do and I've worked with directors saying, they've worked together for a long time with their DOP and saying, well, we hardly ever, we know what it is. This is what I'm trying. This is what I'm thinking. And if you've got that kind of relationship with your DOP, then great, go for it. But for me, working mostly on my, with different DOPs, I find it's just having gone through that process. It may not be what you're going to do on the day, but at least you've got a starting point.
Yeah, it's a good indication. And I mean, that's DOPs doing their jobs, right? Like they're telling you like, oh, we might not be able to get it quite like that. And I've had days on sets too, where everything pretty much had to change from how I planned it. And that, on my final in film school, actually, we had one scene just could not work for what I planned at all. And they're like, okay, what are we going to do? I'm like, all right, well, everything's pretty much scrapped. So I'm like, I talk to my actors. I'm like, this is what I want to see in the scene. Let's see what you guys have. Like, show me what you guys have. And like, they really kind of organically brought that scene together. It was like a 10-second thing, 15-second thing. So it wasn't like too bad, but it was like still a pretty crucial part in our show. And they were awesome. We kind of had some play, and they moved around and kind of did their thing. And then the AD was like, all right, what's the shots? Like, what are we doing? I'm like, all right, well, I know I want my master starting here. We're going to dolly over here with the action. They're going to run off. Camera can follow them. He's like, okay, what are the other shots? I'm like, I don't know yet, but we have to light this anyways. So I'm like, so when the lighting crew is doing that, I'm going to go step over here with my DOP, and him and I are going to like figure out these shots. So he told his crew what to do to light up this master. Then him and I went and stood to the side, and I was like, okay, this is kind of what I want to see. What do you think would be best for this? Like, these are lenses. Like, so yeah, it's a really nice thing working with like really good DOPs, because they can just like really back you up if you're in a moment like that. And it's like, this is what I'm looking for. You can give them your ideas, and they can really help you craft it from there.
Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? I think what part of filmmaking do you think you probably enjoy the most?
Oh, directing is like definitely the best. I love being on set just in general, but I really like directing. Just you got to like talk with the actors and help them build this character. It's just the storytelling that comes with it, and then you got to like work with crew. And like I'll always go talk to like all of my crew, even like the lighting crew and stuff. Like I'm still in Indies, so it's not like I'm like some big fancy dude or anything, but I'll still always go like talk to lighting guys as they're doing it and just like see how their day is going, like what they got. And it's always nice just to, like, because they might have an idea or they might be like,
Yeah.
oh, what about this? Or this is really tough. I'm like, oh, that sucks. I'm sorry to hear that. Like, there'll be coffee soon.
Hot food, coffee. This is
Yeah.
what makes independent filmmaking, folks. I think the Zuska sisters have talked about the fact that they I can't remember if they mentioned it on the shows, but basically they go around and they give everybody a hug first thing in the morning. And I just think, yeah, that is just such a, it's so typically then. And it's like, yeah, it's because you just go around and you really just get to know how everyone's doing that day, because you're going to be talking to them later on at some point.
Yeah.
And you're
if
probably,
people feel respected, like they're going to work harder for you, and they're going to care about the show and feel like it's like a show really worth making, that they have an impact on it. It's like everyone's a team. I'm director, but I ain't shit without any of these guys, right? Like they're the ones making me look good. Because everyone worked their ass off on Mother of Beauty, I now get to have this fun interview with you. Like that's why I go talk to everyone all the time, because I'm lucky enough to have been like, have someone be like, yeah, you can direct this. It's like, sweet.
I know this is the great when you've got a really, I was talking with the Celtic Magic guys, and we knew it was just a fun thing. And it's one of the things I always say, listen, it's got to be fun, otherwise why are we doing, listen, it's going to be stressful, we're going to get scared, we're going to get fraught, that's just going to happen. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Because stuff's going to go wrong. Of course, it's going to go wrong. That's inevitable. There will be challenges. Things will happen.
But you'll always find a way through it. Like
and I think.
No, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to. Yeah, and I was just echoing what you're saying. Is basically because if it's not, then why the hell are you doing it? And it's so important, working and just constantly acknowledging everybody involved. The lady who does the catering actually is really vital to the role.
Yeah, exactly right.
You're saying, Jesse, producer, it really is vital. Your film crew marches on their stomach and those coffees, and having a place for people to go and take a break and just kind of gather their thoughts about what it is.
Oh yeah,
they're actually doing. So we've been talking about Mother of Beauty. We're talking about animation, etc. What else have you guys got? Is there anything else you're working on that you can talk about yet, or what are you up to apart from this?
We got quite a bit on the go. Jessica's up next for directing, so her and one of our friends that is also a writer, his name is Patrick Ade. They're writing a script together right now called Eidolons. And I'm coming on to produce it, and I'm very excited for that one. It should be a lot of fun. It should also be fairly emotional as well. Right. Not a horror, but yeah, it's a really special show. I think we got some of the feedback for a script recently, and some of the feedback was really interesting. People saying like, "Oh, I haven't actually seen the show like with certain elements in this before." The lead character in it being bisexual, and she's dating. She goes from dating a female to a male, and there's nothing to do with that in the show. That's literally just like, that's just a part of the show. We don't really focus on that, and it's not even like they're having conversations about it. It's just life. It's just a part of the show. It's the life that these characters are living, right? And I really like it for a lot of reasons, not just that. And I think we're going to be pitching that for a film fest in Vancouver in September. So we'll be pitching it for there. If not, we'll just be, if we don't get it, we'll be doing it just on our own sometime in the near future. And then I mentioned this last summer when First Love played at a festival. I got to go up and do a Q&A there. But First Love originally just started out as basically my love song to this band, and how much I like the song and how it really inspired me as like a filmmaker and as an artist. And then Jess kind of looked at it and she's like, we could do something with this. And we kind of talked a bit about it, and she came up with the idea of basically doing like a Seven Deadly Sins anthology piece.
Right. Oh, interesting.
So obviously First Love being lust. So the next one that we're doing, hoping to shoot early September, is called Acedia. And it's that's basically just a fancy, pretentious word for sloth. For the sin. Yeah, I have a meeting with the writer/director this afternoon. He'll be directing, so it'll be Jessica and myself producing.
Right.
Because the idea with this anthology is I really want it to be, and just like a true anthology with a bunch of different directors coming on. We call ourselves Eclectic47. I really want to like push the eclectic idea of bringing on other people. And another big important thing for Jessica and myself with it and with our company is to really push females in film, women in film. So
interesting.
There's 7 Deadly Sins. I've done one. Jessica's writing one for herself. I believe she's doing Gluttony. Our buddy Colin that we're meeting with this afternoon is doing Sloth. And then there's one other male that we're going to bring on. We don't know who it is yet. We're kind of keeping our doors open, seeing what happens. And then we're going to have 3 other females direct it. So it'll be a total of 4 women directors and 3 male directors.
Right.
And we try to make as much of the crew female crew members as well, just to like really try kind of encourage that within Vancouver and just in film in general. With Mother Beauty, we had a pretty decent split.
Right.
I think due to a few cancellations, it ended up being, I'd say, like 55-60. So we'd hope for more 50-50. But with First Love, I think besides myself and my buddy that helped me write it, and like the lead actor, there are only a few other men on it. So it was about like 80-20% female.
Right.
So that's like really also what we're trying to push with that, and just really help that. So
that's interesting. Do you find, can you really feel the difference in the crew when you've got that number of women as opposed to men? And is there a different atmosphere?
I don't think it's overly different. I have fun. I joke around with my crews, like pretty much the same way either way. Like I'll bullshit with anyone. so it's just kind of like, for me, it's like I'm just there having fun on set, working with my crew. Like these people all show up to play. Everyone is just as dedicated as anyone else, I feel. So it's really impressive. Like there's definitely nothing lost with it. Right. And that's the best. That's really like the best. Like the women that we had come on board for First Love were amazing.
Right.
Like just an incredible crew. They worked their asses off. I had a female DOP and production designer for that one, and they were both just incredible with everything they brought. Different ideas they brought to the table. Our DOP for First Love specifically, I showed her the location. I'm like, I'm really sorry, the ceilings are low. The actors are going to be like in tight spaces, and I'm like, it's going to be a bit tricky. And she's just like, no, like this is easy. Are you kidding me? Like we'll hang these lights. I was like, what? How are you this amazing? And actually, she's coming back. I think if all works out, she'll be our DOP across the series.
Right. Oh, that'd be really interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I would love to have her back. She's super awesome.
Brilliant. Okay, well, we're coming to the end of the show. It always goes faster than you think it's going to.
Yeah.
So is there a website where people, there's a Facebook page where people can find out about Mother of Beauty, or?
We just have it on our Eclectic47 Facebook page. We're going to do a Mother of Beauty Facebook page, but that's a lot of pages to manage, I find, plus trying to do Twitter, plus trying to do Instagram and everything. So we've tried to keep Mother Beauty its own thing just on our Facebook page. So if you go to Eclectic47 on Facebook, you'll see all like the info on there. Same thing with Twitter. We have an Eclectic47 Twitter, as well as my own, which is Burn Master Arson.
I thought that was just a great title.
It's based on the movie CB4 with Chris Rock. There's one of the rappers in it as the name Stab Master Arson.
Right.
And we tried to take that for like our Xbox gamer tag when I was like 15, and it didn't work. But then Burn Master Arson worked, and I just thought it was hilarious and kept it since. And now I read it and I'm like, I'm a professional.
It's always the way, isn't it? The choices you make when you're 15 really may not serve you well later in life, but
Yeah, but
yeah.
I mean, at the same time, the director of Lights Out, his handle on Twitter is Pony Smasher, so I don't feel so bad.
Cool. All right. So people can find out more about that. I wish you luck with the festival
Thank you.
runs. I look forward to hopefully bumping into one of the. We'll probably have submitted to similar festivals. You never know. Cross fingers. We'll get to
Oh,
meet
yeah.
in the flesh at some point. Okay, Nick. Thank you very much indeed. Just
Thank
before
you so much.
That's my pleasure. Just before we sign off and say goodbye, I just want to something I should have done at the beginning of the show when I wasn't panicking about whether or not you could actually see us. And that was just to say thank you to everybody who's subscribed to the YouTube channel. It does help, and we're getting more subscriptions. I'm very, very grateful. For my guests, etc. There is a newsletter if you want to go to the website and find out more about the shows. I haven't done one for ages because I've been concentrating on the films, but there's going to be more newsletter coming out hopefully in the next week or so. But and appearances, because later in the year there will be appearances. So sign up to the newsletter if you want to meet me in person, and why wouldn't you?
Everyone should want to. Your existence is charming.
Thank you.
Your accent is the best, I have to say. I guess sorry, your voice. I shouldn't say your accent because I have an accent too. But
well, thank you very much. What I also want to say is that next week that Stuart Spark and Paul Butler will be joining me. These are the writer and director of and the co-producers of a film called The Creature Below. I'm involved in their second feature, and we're going to be talking about that, and that is called Book of Monsters. So come and join us when we're talking about Book of Monsters next week. He's fun. It's going to be really good fun. And then the following week, I'm going to be joined by Eric Bread. Now, you may recognize the name. He was the screenwriter of The Hitcher and Near Dark. So he's going to be cool, but we're going to be talking mostly about his writing. He's now become a novelist. We're going to be talking about his werewolf novels. But he's asked that he said, yeah, he's asked if he can see the questions first. So like we did with Fabio Frizzi some time ago, I'm going to set up a web page where you can go and log questions. If you want to ask questions about The Hitcher or his film writing stuff and so on, please, we will spend some time talking about that. Put them up there. Primarily we're going to be talking about his writing. We're really looking forward to that. So next 2 weeks, some really cool guests on the show. Nick, thank you so much indeed for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been awesome.
Good.
Everyone that's watched, thank you for listening to my ramblings.
Yeah, and this has been Chattering with Nicholas Vince. I have been talking with Nick Meunier, and I will hopefully see some of you guys next week. I'm going to hit the stop broadcast button now. Bye, folks.
Bye.
Bye.